Good evening, everybody. Would you please rise for the prayer and the flag salute?
Heavenly Father, I just thank you for this chance we've all gathered here tonight. I just pray that you'll just be with us, give us the guidance and wisdom to move forward with doing what's best for your kingdom ultimately with our city of Bethany here. In your name we pray. Amen.
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. You may be seated. As I call to order the Bethany City Council specially called meeting for Tuesday, December 12, 2017. We have one item on the agenda tonight. Item 1 is a public hearing for presentation of and public questions on project plan for tax increment financing district number 1, also known as Waterside Project Plan, located on the south side of Northwest 39th Expressway and bounded on the west by Overholser Drive. Do I need to get a motion for this? No. Do you want to explain?
The mayor's asked me to just give a brief overview of an explanation of what a tax increment financing district is. As many of you are already aware, cities and towns in Oklahoma don't receive any ad valorem taxes for general operating expenses. The only ad valorem taxes that come to Bethany are those that are approved by a vote of the people as a bond issue. For example, the library that was recently approved by the voters, that's an ad valorem tax that does come to the city to pay off the money that was borrowed to build the library with. But generally speaking, the city does not receive ad valorem taxes. Ad valorem taxes go to the county, the school districts, the library, the health department, and the VOTEC. That's where ad valorem taxes go. And several years ago, the people approved an amendment to the Oklahoma Constitution that allowed a special project to be created for economic development that allowed ad valorem taxes in a certain manner to come to the city for certain economic improvement purposes. And what tax increment districts mean is that typically this process is used for property that's either undeveloped or underdeveloped, or property that has development issues. For instance, it might have be in a floodplain. It might have unusual topography where traditional development is particularly expensive, and for years it hasn't developed because it's economically not feasible to develop the property. And how a tax increment financing works is that the base taxes that are collected on a piece of property in its current state are established. And tonight you'll hear what the taxes are currently on this project that we're talking about tonight, but they're just a few $1,000s on this property currently because it's vacant and undeveloped. When this property is developed, the property will be reassessed by the county assessor, and the value of the property will then be in the millions of dollars. So the tax increment is the difference between what the taxes are today and what they will be after the development is complete. Though that increment or that increase is what is allowed to be used for development purposes. It's not new taxes for anyone. It's just taxes that will be collected. They'll be paid by the owners of the property, but the property will then be paid into the city to repay the cost of the infrastructure development to develop the property. Once the indebtedness to develop the property is paid off, then that money the increased tax revenue will then go to the entities I mentioned before, the schools, the library, the county. The maximum amount of time that this tax increment financing district can last is 25 years. And after that period of time, or after the debt's paid off, then that money just goes to the places it would have normally gone to. But that's kind of a brief overview of how it works. And it's not new taxes. It's just that the taxes that will be collected will go to the city to help with economic development improvements.
Mr. Allen, would you like to step to the microphone and show us what you're working on?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We first would like to start out with a little video presentation that kind of gives an overview and a vision as to what we would like to see on this property. This is the property that is on the utmost west side of the city of Bethany and shares one side with the city of Oklahoma City and also Route 66. It's been vacant for many, many years, more than 25 years. This property is where the old Pauline's Bait House used to reside back in the day, which those of you who are familiar with Pauline's, you know that that's been a long time ago since Pauline's was around, but still a great memory for many. So we'll start off first with a little slide presentation, and then we'll go over, actually the video is what we'll start off first, and then we'll have a little slide presentation as well. So this is as if you're driving down Route 66. We'd like to see a new gateway sign like it's proposed in the comprehensive plan. Do we have audio? This is new signalization that would be on 39th and Overholser Drive. This is the current Overholser Drive as it is, and then shopping would be on the left, which faces Route 66. And right here on the corner of Overholser Drive and 66 would be an iconic style restaurant. And then adjacent to that will be a playground. And there's Lake Overholser right there in the river. And this would be a restaurant that would be proposed to be on that corner that would have a beautiful view of Lake Overholser. This is a hotel that would also have a beautiful view of Lake Overholser on one side. This is a roundabout with an iconic symbol in the middle to draw attention from 39th Route 66 to the area. And that's the back of the shopping center. And this is a new medical facility that's proposed. This is currently 8 acres. And this is what the topographical view would look like. All right, let's go to this slide presentation then. So first is the budget, with which the outlines kind of what it would cost to develop this property. And I believe all of you on the council do have a packet that the budget has been included, okay? So right now, the property generates in tax, which is ad valorem tax. Let me get to the budget here. The property right now generates $4,657 a year in ad valorem tax, or property tax, if you will. So the liability, the tax liability, or what would be paid in if the property were to stay vacant as it is today, over 25 years, the property tax would collect $116,400 and change. The new proposed is a series of different buildings in it, and we take the value of those buildings, use the multiplier for property tax, and we can come up with the new tax that will generate after it's built. So for example, the medical center is proposed to be about 28,000 square feet. The cost to build the medical center is projected at $214 a square foot. So the new value of just the medical center by itself would be just under $6 million. The retail and office space is there below that. So the average retail, which would be the shopping center, it's proposed at about 13,350 square feet, and the value of it completed would be $2.6 million. There's another office, be worth about $538,000 when it's complete. And then 2 restaurant sites. Both restaurant sites together will generate a new value of $2.35 million. And the hotel will generate a value of $5.7 million. So the new value of all those added together is $17,256,000 and some change. The projected assessed value at 11% is $1.898 million. The projected annual tax liability using the multiplier that's currently used by Oklahoma County would generate $207,894 per year in ad valorem or property taxes. You calculate the $207,000 that will be generated by these buildings per year, times that by 25 years, that gives a budgetary number of $5.197 million to be used for development, okay? Then below that is a listing or an itemization of how the funds are proposed to be used. The site and earthwork paving is estimated at $2.2 million. The drainage, water, and sanitary sewer, the extension of such to the property and to the buildings, is $855,000. The pedestrian bridge or the bridge extension is estimated at $200,000. The traffic signalization and markings at $300,000. Site lighting, light bollards, $100,000. Landscape and irrigation, $100,000. And amenities and enhancement at $250,000. The infrastructure cost subtotal is estimated at $4,005,000. We have a 10% contingency, which is an industry standard for a project like this, of $400,000. So total infrastructure cost is estimated to be $4.4 million. Then you have engineering and permits fees, estimated at $175,000. The conceptual design and visualization, $15,000. The retail acquisition cost, $86,000. Land purchase and interest, that's the current land as it sits right now, purchase and interest at $430,000. Payment reserves, What the payment reserves line is designed to do is after the completion of the development, the city goes out and inspects it, makes sure it was done to the plans and specifications that were submitted. And then the city goes and issues a bond to pay back the part of the development. The bond is then paid by the new collection of the new property tax from the new buildings. So it takes 2 to 3 years for the properties to be built out and complete. And so we put in reserves of $600,000 to make those bond payments while the other buildings are being built. That's what the payment reserves is. Land acquisition opportunity is for a piece of land adjacent to the 8 acres. The project cost subtotal is $5.786 million. A management fee of 6% of $347,000. The total project cost estimated to be at $6.133 million. To date, down below that, it denotes the expenses already incurred by my company, the Bethany Land Development, LLC. We have invested in this project thus far of our own money about $531,000. Are there any questions on the budget, the proposed budget? Okay, we'll go on. This is a timeline of what we see the activity to be. So we started on this project in 2016 and have been working on this for almost a year and a half now. We do have under contract an obligation to deliver a buildable site to the medical facility by September, October of 2018. So the far right-hand side red dot denotes that timeline. So we've got basically from December here, we've got about 8 to 10 months to deliver a buildable pad site for the medical facility, which we think is very achievable. Are there any questions of the timeline? So what has been completed to date? The boundary and topographic survey is complete. We've done the conceptual design and modeling. The preliminary cost estimation is complete. We have paid for a hotel feasibility study for the site. That is complete. Consulting contracts and letters of intents received for there's 2 major tenants. Those are in place. And we've started preliminary coordination with ODOT, the City of Oklahoma City, and the City of Bethany, because this property touches all 3 of those. The next steps is to complete the public hearings, finalize and execute a TIF development agreement. That's a development agreement between the City of Bethany and us, the developer. Initiate an ODOT right-of-way transfer frontage of Overholser Drive. Finalize design, engage a general contractor, and secure remaining tenants. Additional funding sources. We're going to pursue ODOT, TR, STP. These all stand for something, and I've got a gentleman here that can tell us all those details if we need to know. But basically what this is ODOT has funds set aside for special projects such as this, and we would like to pursue some of those special funds. So that would help us out with the traffic signal, pursue ODOT TAP funding for sidewalks and trails, pursue the ODOT TAP funding for the site amenities related to historic Route 66, pursue other historic Route 66 grant opportunities. It's very, very important that this property, once it's developed, becomes a tourist destination for Route 66. It's right adjacent to the historic Route 66 bridge, and I live over in that area, and I'm amazed how many people from out of state stop there and take photographs. What the people from out of state don't have is a place to lodge, a place to eat and dine, and this project provides that to them, where the revenue of sales tax from all of those things come back to the city of Bethany. Even though that bridge is on the other side of the street in Oklahoma City, we're going to take advantage of that opportunity. It also takes advantage of the opportunity with the new river sports that are happening on Lake Overholser. There are literally hundreds on the weekends of people going up and down the river on kayaks and paddle boards, but they have no place to go and buy a soft drink or buy amenities and supplies for those things. We intend to, in the retail side, we've got some people that are interested in opening storefronts that would service these people and give them a place to do that. So really, on the design considerations, we need to take into account a drainage engineering study that will be completed per the City of Bethany requirements. Paving and utilities will meet or exceed the Bethany standards. Parking will meet or exceed the Bethany standards and ordinances. And landscaping, design, and implementation will meet or exceed the City of Bethany ordinances. Any questions?
Mr. Allen, I had a question, if you would, please.
Yes, sir.
You spoke about the hotel feasibility study. Any, could you give us a clue when that may be completed and be available?
The study is already done and complete,
And?
and it's about that thick. It's quite the read. But in a nutshell, what the study says is that this site is prime for a hotel from 80 to 120 rooms. What is unique about this site that we can take advantage of on our side, the City of Bethany, is this will be the only hotel in the Oklahoma City Metroplex with lake view rooms, which is a big draw for the area. So if you're searching for rooms in our area or in Oklahoma City, we're going to have the chance to draw people that might otherwise stay somewhere else in Oklahoma City because it's right on the lake. And all of that revenue will come back to the City of Bethany for sales taxes.
Mr. Allen, I had a question. The Gilbert Medical Center, that is a doctor's office, correct?
That is correct.
And that'll create a lot of traffic in the area for the other retail establishments, is that right?
That is correct. It's necessary to have something or an anchor tenant that will create daily traffic. So for a restaurant to work on this site, I was talking with a restaurant operator, and I was pitching this site to him, and he said, well, how many people can you guarantee me will come to that site per day? And I said, I don't know, but let me get back with you. So the doctors from the medical center were interested in relocating a new building on this site, and so I went to them and asked them how many people will they bring to the site every day with employees and patients. And that number is anywhere from 350 to 400 people per day. Went back to the restaurant operator and says, I can bring you 350 to 400 people per day guaranteed to the site. And he said, now I'm interested. The key for him is he's got to guarantee that he's got enough draw from lunch for lunch business to survive, and then also dinner to survive as well. And so he has to have that regular traffic every day. So that's what is great about the Gilbert Medical Center, is how many people they'll bring to the site every day. Plus, they plan to move over a pharmacy as well, which will generate sales tax.
Mr. Allen, I have a question.
Yes, sir.
Should something happen during the development process of this, and would the City of Bethany be on the hook for any of this, or are we completely removed from any, financing of this of nature? Do you understand what I'm asking? I think you've
Yes.
been asked this before, but
Yes.
kind of want you to explain just a little bit more to me so I have a better understanding.
Sure.
Thank you.
So how this will work is I will go out and get a development loan to develop the property with the proposed budget, okay? After the city of Bethany verifies that everything that we said we would do is complete, then they will go out and sell a bond to pay back that development cost. Then I'm on the hook as the developer. I'm on the hook, I take the risk as the developer that if the buildings do not perform as I've projected to them to perform, then I have to make up that shortfall for those payments back to the bond. Otherwise, if things work out as we intend, then those buildings will generate the property taxes every year as any building would, and those payments generated by those property taxes will go to pay the bond payments. So we put in 2 years of reserves into the budget because we want to make sure that we have a nest egg there to go back into that just in case there's something that's going to fall short. But it was important for me to go and secure agreements, letters of intents, and contracts for the 2 biggest anchor tenants so that we can make sure that the majority of those payments are made with those 2 buildings, which $5 and $6 million is the value of those. So that's kind of the plan. I did not want to go and pursue this development without having some commitments first. And now that we have 2 major anchors, the risk for us is a lot better. But to answer your question further, there is no risk to the city to pay back that bond. It's these ad valorem taxes, these property taxes will be collected, and that's what will pay back that bond.
I certainly appreciate your candor and everything that obviously you've put $500,000 into this already, so I want you to know I appreciate that.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for your answer there.
I have a question. How many potential jobs for Bethany residents do you think this project may bring to our town?
You know, I haven't calculated the exact number of jobs, but a restaurant carries, the style of restaurants we're talking about carries anywhere from 20 to 50 employees per restaurant with the different shifts. I would say that would be between both restaurants. The Gilbert Medical Center, of those 350 to 450 people, there's about 150 to 200 that are actually employed. The hotel would have a staff probably of 15, somewhere in that neighborhood. And then the shopping is kind of up in the air. It's because each place will be a little bit different, so they'll have a different staff level. But this will bring quite a few jobs to the area.
I want to ask and point out something that's not figured in here also. When these buildings are being built, the city should also benefit from the sales tax of the building material, which could be very large and profitable for us. So,
And I appreciate you pointing that out, because when you order materials or supplies and it's delivered on site, and so most all materials of these caliber of buildings will be delivered to the site. If it's delivered to the site, then the sales tax that retailer has to charge is the Bethany sales tax rate. And Councilman Herron is correct. All of these structures will collect sales tax as they're being built for the city.
Builders tell me that it's about a 50-50 split on a building between labor and materials, so you could anticipate that about half of those numbers would be taxable.
That is correct, yes, sir.
so it'd be about $8.5 million
At 4%.
At our 4%. So, could we do something to encourage to make sure material is delivered? Is there a way to, when you're talking to the builders, you're the developer, sorry. When you're talking to the builders, though, could we encourage them to make sure that they have their material delivered to Bethany and to double check up on that the Bethany sales tax is being applied?
Yeah, we can certainly encourage that to happen. I will tell you, as being in the building business, we get everything delivered. It's just way too costly for us and our staff to go pick things up and bring it to the site. There might be 1 or 2 little things that are missed that might be an errand you have to run and get, but I would say probably 90 to 95% of all materials would be delivered to this site.
Some of the slippage that happens on that might be in like hot water tanks and heat and air units where the installer goes and buys them at the shop in Oklahoma City and pays for them there, puts them in his truck, and brings them out, but on a job this size, I don't think that would be likely.
Yeah, that most likely not. Those will all be things that will be delivered directly to the site.
Of the ordinance on page 5, it talks about 2% of sales tax gross proceeds.
I might
Section 10, could you address that, Section 10?
I might address that. Currently, this is only proposed to be an ad valorem tax assessment, tax increment district. That language was put in there early on in the project, just before these numbers were finalized, and at this point, there's no proposal to include any sales tax in the development agreement, which you'll see later on.
Along those same lines, is it going to be likely, are we going to be expected as city to give sales tax grants and rebates now to get the individual businesses here?
I wouldn't say that the city would be expected to do that. I think it would be up to those individual tenants that would occupy those spaces to apply and use the system already in place to see if it qualifies for something like that.
And will that be likely that these businesses will request that?
I can't speak for those business owners. The only thing I do think that might be something that will be requested of is the hotel. And as you know, the hotel not only collects sales tax, but they collect also a totally separate tax, just a hotel tax. Mm-hmm. And so sometimes it's been historical that one might share in that for a certain length of time as a benefit to bring that operator here.
And when that hotel tax was passed, it was actually earmarked for economic development, part of it was, so that's certainly a potential use for that.
So we're potentially paying out on the development side, and then also, once again, to get the retails to come into us again.
I want to make sure that I understand what you just said, because I don't think that I understood it correctly. You talked about...
I'm just stating, there's a strong chance that we're going to pay out twice to get these businesses, on the development side and then again to get the retail here.
Well, the development side will not come, the monies
In
will
the
not
TIF.
come through,
Correct.
will not come from the city of Bethany or their coffers.
Yeah.
That'll
Correct.
come from projected property tax. But yes, I think that it's, as any applicant, it's up to them to come and apply for a sales tax rebate and up to that authority to be able to grant that or not.
Mr. Allen, you might make it clear, I think you touched on it, but just to clarify it, the tax increment funds that we're talking about are all going to be used for infrastructure, not for building the buildings that you're going to build. That's your risk there.
That's correct. So the budget that we proposed and put forth is really for development costs, not for actually the building cost.
Correct.
So development costs, let me expand on that. That's for water and sewer lines being brought to the property and actually extended to the building sites. It's for the preparation of the sites. It's for streets. It's all what we call public improvements is what these monies will be used for.
Public parking,
Yes,
another big
public,
item.
yes.
And any sales tax incentive would have to go through the Bethany Economic Development Authority as a recommending body to bring back to the council, and it would be up to us to whether we thought that was something we wanted to do or not. So.
And those would be completely separate from this particular proposal.
I think there's also an important distinction. If there were a sales tax rebate, that would be, it comes to the city and then they get some of that back. It's not, there's no paying out until we get some.
That is correct. It's my understanding on how the rebate system works is after the sales taxes are collected, then the rebates are there put forth as per the agreement. So you're correct. That would be the way it's done. So there'd be no net cash flow out from the city of Bethany without collecting first. Any other questions?
Mr. Allen, the purchase of the property, is that to be a feature to the project at hand. Can you explain that briefly?
So the property line with the purchase opportunity?
Yes.
Yes, sir. Would you mind pulling up the site map? So let's put your cursor there at the property area we're talking about. So this is a little history on this property. This property was owned by the city of Bethany probably almost 18 years ago. And at that time, the new firm maps from FEMA came out. And at that time, the new firm map included all of this property in the floodplain. So at that time, the city manager, Dan Galloway, was here at that time. He worked with FEMA and Oklahoma County to bring up this 8-acre parcel out of the floodplain. They brought in hundreds and hundreds of truckloads of dirt to bring this and lift this piece of property. It was about 2.5 to 3.5 feet from where it resided. That allowed that designation of that property to be lifted out of the floodplain. The property where the cursor is, the city of Bethany did not own at that time, and has not owned that. And so that's owned privately right now, and we would like to pursue the opportunity to purchase that. It is currently in the floodplain. It's not a site that is buildable because it's in the floodplain, but we would like to see that become a water feature that would enhance the area and provide a great view from the hotel and also a great view from the restaurant. So that's what those funds are there allocated for.
Can you give a brief explanation as to the creek and the trees that were planted there related to the neighborhood on that side?
Yes. So the creek, and on both sides of the creek, is currently owned by the Bethany Development Authority. We do not own that property. We do plan to do some improvements to that part of the property with an access agreement with the city of Bethany. We would like to extend the Oklahoma City Trail system onto that property so it connects and can continue up to 39th and Council. And so the Bethany Development Authority and the city of Bethany is responsible for maintaining that creek area. And back when the city of Bethany owned this piece of property years ago, they planted a series of cedar trees as a buffer between the residential neighborhood to the south and this area of what's potentially going to be developed. Importantly, we positioned the hotel so that the rooms do not look directly towards the neighborhoods. That does two things. It allows that hotel to face the view of the water, which is Lake Overholser, but also the way it's designed and set on the site plan, we did not want the view of any room to be a direct view behind.
As someone who brings groups through on Route 66, I'm really excited about this because it's hard to find a place in the Oklahoma City area where you can bring a busload of people and get them all fed at the same time, where the motorcycle groups and the car groups that come through can just stop and find a place to eat. And you know, that's easy to do in some places, but not in the Oklahoma City area. So I'm excited and hope that as you're seeking out your restaurants, they're keeping that in mind. And I know Swadley's is moving to the other side of 66,
That's
so
correct.
they'll also have that in mind, and
Right.
that's good for Bethany.
It is very good for Bethany. Thank you.
Could you elaborate on the ODOT potential projects?
I might yield to our Mark Long, who is our engineer. He's very familiar with those, and he would be able to specifically answer those better than I could.
Can we go to that slide? So what we're going to try to accomplish is leveraging as many potential other funding sources beyond what is in this program as far as the budget goes. The traffic signal is on Route 66 or State Highway 66. So we would have to do that project under ODOT design and under their permitting process. What we wanted to try to do is then try to leverage and get some local Division 4 funds that could be used to help offset what the $300,000 that we have in the budget for that. The other thing, the iconic gateway, and certainly in this budget we don't have the funding for that vision that we have coming over Route 66. However, we can go through what's called the Transportation Alternative Program, or TAP. Those funds are available on a every 2-year cycle. They're being used all over the country, and they're being used here in Oklahoma as well. And we feel like, and that's a competitive process, so you have to put it in the application. So as part of the development side of this, we will be assisting the city of Bethany, who will be the applicant. So the city of Bethany will have to apply to ODOT and FHWA for that. But we as the development team will be aggressively pursuing that and helping you to do those applications and to pursue that. There's numerous other grants that are out there for Route 66 for things that can go to augment like the iconic roundabout and things that we can do that can tie into the history of Route 66. And that's been done in Elk City, Clinton, Weatherford already. And that was decades ago. So what we're trying to do is capitalize on those same funding sources. We're also going to be looking at sidewalks and trail, and as Steve mentioned, we think it's very important to provide the link from Oklahoma City to Oklahoma City, because Bethany is in the middle in this 8-acre tract, so we want to be able to provide that trail connection so that it can tie into the trail system that Oklahoma City has. And that's a feature that is eligible under these transportation alternative programs. And it's a competitive issue when you're looking at these funds. The other thing that we're looking at in order to make all this happen is we're going to have to do an ODOT right-of-way transfer process. Currently, Overholser Drive is in the city limits of Bethany. However, everything from the highway as you drive on all the way to the south or easterly boundary of Overholser Drive is all under ODOT right-of-way. So we certainly cannot complete this development without transferring that portion of the ODOT right-of-way over into the city of Bethany. The developer cannot receive that. The city of Bethany, however, can. So we'll be helping you to pursue a right-of-way transfer process where ODOT will transfer that right-of-way to the city of Bethany. Overholser Drive will then become a city street, and then we'll be able to complete the development. So again, those are all funding mechanisms to be able to leverage more dollars from what's in this budget.
Quite a bit of Overholser Drive is in Oklahoma City. So what portion are you talking about?
Let's go to the map. So if you see where the iconic restaurant is, where the three-way intersection is, right there, okay, the city limits of Bethany and Oklahoma City are right there. And what we're talking about is everything to the north of where his arrow is pointing, all of that grassy area, and then all of Overholser Drive, drop down just a little bit. Now go to the east, and then up to the intersection. So right now, when that was built originally in 1954 and then expanded in the early 70s, ODOT took all that right away. For us to do the proper frontage that we want for the retail space that's along Overholser Drive, we can't do the parking, we can't do the retail off of what is already on ODOT right away. Too many red tape issues there. So we want to be able to bring that into being a city street, and then that will tie into Overholser Drive, which is an Oklahoma City street. Now, on the west side of the property, that is Oklahoma City as well.
Kind of an easy way to identify that as well. On the north there, where Route 66 is, where the property that we're talking about, getting from ODOT to the city of Bethany, that's all 100% concrete right now. And when you go to that little spot right there where the arrow is, that turns into asphalt. That's kind of a good way to denote the different boundary lines from Oklahoma City to the city of Bethany.
Thank you for the presentation.
Thank you, sir. Any other questions? All right, thank you all. Thank you very much.
I wasn't sure whether we were allowed to ask questions yet, and I do have some. All your questions seem to be directed to the council. May I?
Madam, if you have any questions related, I think there's an opportunity to do that at some point in
Yeah,
time.
if anybody has a question for Mr. Allen, if you can come to the microphone, and this would be the time to be able to ask your questions.
My name's Milton Seagraves, and I have a question about that West Bethany sewer main. Some 30 years ago or so, it was operating near capacity. And you got a hotel with 120 rooms and 2 restaurants dumping into that line. Who assures that that capacity is going to be maintained or the line maintained?
Mr. Caton?
The city of Bethany is currently installing a $2.3 million upgrade to that West Bethany interceptor as we speak.
You're talking about up at 50th Street?
Yes, sir. It goes all the way from Brownsville north to 50th, and then the force main from there to 50th and Rockwell is almost finished. So that is under construction right now.
You might introduce yourself, Steve, so people know
I
you
know
are.
the line was being constructed, but I thought
Right.
that was a repair.
No, sir. It's being
At the
completely
time,
upgraded.
They had a bond issue to do that line,
Well, this
upgrade the line.
this upgrade that is done now was done strictly with city funds, no bonds, and it's under construction right now. I'm the city engineer for all of you at home.
Thank you, Mr. Caton.
I'm kind of short. Can you hear me?
Yes. Thank
Okay.
you.
My questions are directed to the developer, and there's several, so I don't know if you want to stand with me?
Sure.
So they can hear you too?
All right.
In the valuation that you came up with on your budget, what was your basis? Is this what's going on now in the industry in surrounding cities with, a figure? What have you come up with? How did you come up with it?
So what we did is we gave several contractors our site plan with the ideas of what we wanted to do, and they used the formula that they used to calculate estimations to come up with these budgets.
Okay, so are we padding it for increase in cost of materials and that sort of thing in your cost expenditures, not your income? But
We approached them and asked them to kind of give us not the exact number, but kind of a little bit of a worst case scenario, so that these budget numbers could be under budget when they're actually implemented.
Okay. Now, I want to first say that as a property owner and the adjoining resident to this addition, we're excited about what it can do to our property value. So I thank you for that. We do have some concerns. And in the past, you have always been good at addressing those concerns for us. So I hope that continues. One of the concerns that I have, and Mr. Heron brought this up, was let's take the worst case scenario. You indicated that if, let's say you go belly up, don't wish that on anybody, but let's say that happens, and you've already expended a bunch of money, and we come in and we probably would not have yet done a lot of these infrastructure things that you're requesting, but let's say we've done a good part of them, and there's no income coming because the project's not completed. Somebody has to be held accountable for that. Are you saying you're held accountable for that, or does that fall back on the city?
So how that works is the bank that I go borrow the money from for the development loan
bank, that development has to be complete before the city of Bethany will sell a bond to pay that back. It has to be complete to the satisfaction of the city of Bethany.
But in that completion, the city of Bethany is paying the.
No, that's not correct. So what we will,
All right, if this
Sure.
isn't done.
Let's just take a worst-case scenario. What we will do is we will go apply for the bank for a development loan, and that's a loan to develop the property.
Right.
The development loan will fund all of the improvement costs through the course of construction.
Okay.
And then once the development is complete and inspected and to the satisfaction as to what we said it would be, then the city of Bethany goes and sells a bond to pay back the bank.
Okay, so you're gonna pay to lay these lines in these streets?
That's correct.
The city's not gonna be out any money?
I will be fronting the money through a loan for all of the improvements first.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, then, personal, to our addition, this map. In the back, where you have the back of the hotel and the back of Gilbert Medical, I see that we have parking.
Mhm.
Where are deliveries occurring in these buildings that are gonna be fairly close to where we are?
So the site plan for the hotel is a actual site plan given to us by Best Western. The hotel is actually a new concept called the Glow. And so they have in their business model area for those deliveries to occur. And I don't know exactly the location that they'll receive deliveries, but most of them to the hotel will be to the front, which will be the roundabout area in the front. The Gilbert Medical Center will have a place for deliveries to be housed, and that building is not 100% designed yet. And so they're currently, after this process happens, they'll engage an architect and start the design process of that. And so I can't really speak to the exact location of those deliveries. However, the parking around the Gilbert area, or that medical center, is meets or exceeds the parking standards of the city of Bethany. And we designed that parking lot for them because of their needs to be able to bring so many people per day. So if we were just building that to the city standards, the parking lot would actually be smaller. So we do believe that there's ample space for deliveries to take place and not provide any noise or abatement to the adjoining properties.
I think with the trees and the drainage ditch and the distance to the back of those homes, we have enough of a buffer. I'm okay with that.
Great.
If it becomes a problem, then we'll address it with the city. Okay, and let me check one more page here that I had written some notes. Let me make sure. Too many papers. Okay, I think I've got my questions answered.
Thank you.
Very much.
You bet. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else?
Just questions or comments as well?
Questions and comments? Questions and comments?
Sure.
Yeah, sure.
My name's Kimberly Willis, and I grew up in this town. I'll be very straightforward. Two things I'm not big on are industry and traffic. I feel like one reason why a lot of people love Bethany is because of its quaint feel, its quietness as compared to Oklahoma City. If we want the busyness and the hectic style of life, we can go into Bricktown or somewhere within Oklahoma City. And I feel like there are quite a few people who probably feel like I do. I feel like industry serves the best interest of industry and not necessarily that of a small community like ours. Number two, with some of the concerns with specifically what's going to be there have already been some issues with Bethany's water supply. And I don't really like the idea of a medical facility of any kind being right next to the lake. I don't think that's necessarily wise. So I'm here to say that I object to the idea. And I feel like that we could do things that were beneficial for Bethany, but they don't have to necessarily take this route. And I do feel after, my purpose for being here is I feel there are quite a few people who do feel like I do. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Willis, where do you live?
I grew up here in Bethany.
No, what is your address?
I live right over here. I'm not going to give my address for political reasons,
Oh.
but I live close.
But you're in Bethany.
5 minutes, yeah.
Okay.
Mr. Caton, would you have any desire to address the situation with her concern about the water?
I detected she was concerned about anything from the medical facility, how it might affect the lake. All of our public drinking water supplies are shallow wells. We don't withdraw any surface water from Lake Overholser. That all those rights are owned by Oklahoma City. So this would not affect our groundwater field whatsoever. It's all down gradient from where we are, and I would not anticipate any effects to our drinking water because of anything that would go on at this particular site.
Thank you.
Sandy Staub. I've got a question for the guy that will be in charge, perhaps. When you get your bids from contractors as far as construction, what will be the makeup of the employees that they hire? How many green cards? How many employees from Bosnia, Albania that are coming over here to work? And we would not have construction done by locals because it's too expensive. Do you take that into consideration when you pick the final bid or final bidder?
Ms. Staub, can you give us your address? That's me.
Oh, 3905 Patty Lane.
While the infrastructure will eventually be accepted by the city and become city property, the actual construction will be secured by the developer. That's quite common for any like subdivisions or any developer actually hires the contractors that will do the actual construction. I don't know if Mr. Allen has a standard set of contractors he likes to use, but that would be up to the contractor, and the city would not. City does not have control over individual contractor employees or timetables or anything like that.
And I might mention on any project of this nature, whoever the contractor is, his employees will be required to have I-9s, which are immigration forms that show they're eligible to work in the United States. And also there will be a non-discrimination aspect to it as well. So no contractor on that job will be able to discriminate against anyone.
So to answer the question, we plan to use contractors that have been around for a long time in the Oklahoma City area. We don't use contractors that employ those who are not legal. We don't want to get into that mess. So you'll find that the contractors we use are very reputable and have been around for a long time and are in business to stay in business.
You have another?
I do know, just to add what you said.
Can you come to the microphone, please?
Just to add to what you said, I do know that with all the construction that's going on in Oklahoma City, that there are contractors here right now that are not from Oklahoma. And it's my understanding too, when the materials are purchased, that those materials are tax exempt. So there's no sales tax.
No. The sales tax goes to where they're delivered, correct?
When they're purchased by the contractor.
For city projects,
Right.
For city projects, they are tax exempt, but this would be a private project, so there would be no tax exempt status for those materials, because it won't be a City of Bethany project.
So the contractors wouldn't be requesting from the city anything from the city?
Not as far as tax exempt status.
Okay.
Thank you. Are there any other comments or questions?
Yes, my name is Ben Brink, and I live on Riverside Drive in the neighborhood directly adjacent. It's the street that runs parallel, well, not parallel, but it intersects with Shannon Avenue adjacent to this property. And I drive by this piece of land almost every day, and even my 9-year-old son, who's in 4th grade, has commented on how he would want to put a restaurant here someday if he ever has a restaurant. So I would just like to say I think it's a great opportunity for the city of Bethany, and I applaud all of the expense and effort that Mr. Allen has already put in. So thank you.
Thank you. Maybe Mr. Allen can help your son get a job in one of the restaurants one of these days. Well, I, for one, would like to just simply say I'm excited about the potential of this project and appreciate your willingness to put your money where your mouth is already to this point. And growing up here and hearing about Bethany being a bedroom community and realizing as I get older that it takes sales tax dollars to make a city go, and especially to make it go forward, we have to do some things to make that happen. And I think this is going to be a very great thing for the city of Bethany historically, Lord willing. So, are there any other comments or questions?
Mayor, I just had one thing I meant to say earlier and I forgot. Prior to this project getting here, it was reviewed by a committee that represented Putnam City Schools, the City County Health Department, the Francis Tuttle VOTEC, Oklahoma County, the City County Metropolitan Library System, and the City County Health Department. And their unanimous recommendation was that the impact of this for the general area was positive.
I'd also like to let everyone know that next Tuesday evening at 7:30, we will be having our council meeting where you will be able to, again, it'll be a public hearing where we'll be addressing this TIF district. And so I appreciate everybody coming out tonight. If there's no more comments or questions, you have one more?
Sandy Staub again. I cannot tell where the Southern Nazarene Church is located in relation to the development.
Just
That's
past
right past that?
Yeah.
It's below the creek?
Yeah, below the
Okay.
creek there.
Thank you.
The Nazarene Church, yeah.
I just want to be clear. It's not adjacent to the creek. Now, the Nazarene Church is south of this property and occupies further below the creek that property, and then you can kind of see their parking lot in that far bottom corner, if you will.
Actually, they own, I believe, the property that you identified as
That is
being a
correct.
potential water
Yes.
feature. That's currently owned by the church.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you. With that, I consider us adjourned and invite everybody out next Tuesday evening at 7:30.